how do coaches survive without going broke on ads in 2025?
We advocate building an audience, and from that audience finding who your fans are and then allowing your fans to self-filter into clients. We know lots and lots of people selling $16,000, $18,000, $20,000 packages in the DMs with a dot.
Welcome to Scale Simple. I'm Sebastian and I'm here with Jeff. Here we talk about scaling your coaching business to 7 or 8 figures while actually keeping the profit. Because here's the thing, most companies sacrifice 70 to 80% of their revenue to bloated ad spend, big teams, or tools they don't need. So we show you how to keep most of your money using hybrid social funnels where organic content and paid ads work together, not against your profit. That's what we talk about here. We share all the specific strategies and what's working right now that you can implement into your business.
What causes so many coaches to be on this income roller coaster? 1 month they'll do 30 grand, the next month they'll do 0, and then they're at 15, and then it's back to 0, and then it's up to 32, and then what causes that, and what can people do about that?
I have a really good answer to that question. I love it. Thank you. Just this morning, while I was going to the gym, I recorded a quick short video about tracking. The reason for it being is because I paid for MyFitnessPal Premium again to track my food, right? Because we all know if you go into the gym, but you're not tracking your food and you're eating whatever, the gym might be useless altogether. So in MyFitnessPal, now I have these 3 rings, right? So we have one of them is carbs, one of them is fats, and one of them is protein, right? So if I want to grow my muscle mass, I need to eat 2 times my body weight in protein, which is around 160 grams at least per day. Then I don't want to gain a bunch of fat. So I need to keep my fat maybe below 100 grams a day because all foods have a little bit of fat. So that adds up really quickly. And finally, I need to have a lot of carbs in order for the fitness and the energy that I do. I need to have like 400 or 500 grams of carbs, right? In order to maintain, but also gain a little bit of weight, lean, and basically grow. And it's funny because you have this gamified there, you have these rings, right? So what happens when you start eating food in the morning, you do some scrambled eggs or whatever, you see these rings add up real quick. So you get a little bit of protein, you have some eggs, and then the fat bar goes like already all the way to half. So while doing this, and when you're tracking meticulously, you'll realize really quickly what your constraints are. And that cookie in between, or that chocolate bar in between, or maybe even some kind of sugary drink or something like that, real quick is like, dude, I cannot have that, because if I do, I will not be able to have all these 3 rings closed nicely, right? My fat thing will go completely overboard and I will probably feel bloated and not be able to eat enough protein and carbs in order to reach my goals. And I love this example because this applies to fitness, but it applies to your business exactly the same thing. Imagine these 3 rings are how many people view something of you, how many people then raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in what you have, and how many people are seriously interested and hop onto a conversation with you that you can then close. And if you're not monitoring these rings carefully, you don't know. Maybe you're spending all your time on the wrong activities, which do not push your business. So you need to be, in order to scale your business, wherever you are, if you're at 10K, 30K, or 50K, you need to know exactly what is contributing to this 10K. What's keeping you there, right? If it's how many clients are you signing up every week, every month, every year, and how many conversations do you need to have in order to sign up these clients? And once you're tracking this is something I was also working on really closely together with you, right? When we were working together over a year ago, is like, if you're not tracking this properly, you don't know what to even work on. You're basically running in the blind. I don't know how to end this question, but you got to track your shit wherever it is.
You got to track your shit, and it's wild. I had a conversation with a coach at the beginning of this month, and they're doing pretty well. They're doing like 40, 50K a month consistently. Profit margins are terrible because they've followed, the traditional advice: build a VSL funnel, hire a setter, hire a closer, do all the stuff, do all the things, right? So the setter's getting 10% straight off the top, minus out tax, minus out the cost of the ads, minus the setter's base plus commission, minus the back end team, the software, and the guy's left with virtually nothing. And I said, well, when it comes to ads, how do you track that? And he said, well, I don't really track that. And I said, well, how do you know which campaigns are performing or not? He said, well, I just use like, you know, the information in the back end of the ads dashboard, which you and I both know is wildly inaccurate and can send your business spiraling unless you're using correct attribution, you know, something like Hyros or something like that. And then I said, well, what about your sales team? You know, are you tracking how many calls you got booked? Of the booked calls, how many showed? Of the showed calls, how many closed? Of the closes, which ad did they come from? And no, we don't track any of that. And I'm just like, dude, it is no wonder you're flying blind and flailing because you don't know what's working and what's not. And I think that's the biggest thing for every single, I mean, obviously we're here talking about coaching businesses, but every single business, what doesn't get tracked can't get managed. And if you don't know where your best leads are coming from, if you don't know, you know, and then if you want to extrapolate that all the way out, then you can take a database of all of the leads that have closed and you can upload that obviously into the ads dashboard to use as retargeting, right? Here's all my best leads. Here's all the people that closed, came in, paid me money. Let's find more of those. So if you're not tracking, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. And again, you know, we talk all the time about not needing complicated funnels and large teams and maintaining 90% profit margins, but that doesn't mean you can't track your shit. You still have to track, you know, with whatever you're doing, even if that's organic stuff. Okay, well, what brought in the most followers? What piece of content generated the most engagement? What piece of content generated the most leads? Of those leads that were generated, how many showed up? Of the show ups, how many closed? Like, if you just don't track, you are setting yourself up for failure. So yeah, I agree. Tracking, and it, like, to start with, just use a Google sheet. Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't need some zap into a Miro board and like, you know, just use a Google sheet.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Yeah.
And use tools that are already out there. Like, right, you just said it before that, you know, the Facebook Ads Manager does not particularly track your ad spend well, right? But you can still, if you're just starting out and you're spending less than, let's say, 10K on Facebook ads each and every month, use the Facebook Ads Manager and take an hour or two to understand the columns, go Google what UTM parameters are and do it properly, right? Many of you may know what a UTM parameter is. Well, are you using them properly? Do you know do you have them on every campaign that you can feed back? Okay, this creative led to me having so and so many leads, right? And this will, if you just look at this properly, this information, or when you said before, organic content, right? Same thing. In the business manager, when you connect your Instagram profile as a professional profile with your Facebook page, you can view the performance of every single post in one table. And you can see how many likes, how many comments, how many shares, how many views, what is the drop-off rate, right? Just before you start any complicated software or zapping into other things, just look at the data that you already have. And a lot of these tools are getting really good already just at what they are to begin with, and use that to understand what's happening within your business so that you can then go and fix these constraints.
Yep, I agree.
It's really interesting. In one of our companies, MYA, we work together with architects, home builders, right? Companies sometimes selling millions of dollars. And it's really interesting there because you'll be running ads, spending maybe, 5, 10, 20K a month on ads. And sometimes somebody converts 6 months down the line or 12 months down the line. Mm-hmm. But if this person gives you $2 million, are you going to complain if you were running ads for 3-4 months, spending whatever, right? So it's really important that you then know, well, this person converted from this campaign, and that you feed back that information also to your pixels and to your conversion tracking. One more thing to add as well. When I started running ads like over 10 years ago, many times like conversion tracking wasn't really a thing, right? Because you had, just browser tracking was great at the time. Then the iOS update came, people were like, what should we do now? Should we? And I think this term conversion tracking sounds scary to so many business owners. They're like, what? AWS containers, complicated tech. I don't understand it anymore. It's like, bro, I don't understand conversion. I don't know all the tricks in the Google Tag Manager that you need to do, but you can go on Fiverr and hire a guy for $50 and he'll fucking implement it with like 7 or 8 using Stape, using Google Tag Manager, using everything that you need. Yep. So there's no excuses. There's literally no excuses. Get conversion tracking implemented. Stape is free to use for like, I don't know how many events, right? And then it costs you like $20 or something like that. It's not hard to get this to a level that really helps you know exactly who's buying from your business, who's converting, what are good leads, so that you can run better ads.
We both agree. I'll tell you what I want to ask you. Talk to me about this. Talk to me about, and there's a reason I'm asking you this, because this was a question that got asked of me this week. Talk to me about building a big team. And here's the reason I'm asking, is because so many coaches think that you cannot build revenue, you cannot scale growth unless you've got, a huge team, closers, setters, all of this payroll going out. And you and I both know that 100K a month with a 90% profit margin and a tiny team of 1 or 2 people is absolutely doable. I tell you what, tell me this. Tell me why people think that. And then tell me why the opposite is true.
I'm not sure why people think. I have a funny theory in my head, and I think it comes from initially when you start as an entrepreneur. You go out and you say, hey, I want to start my business. I want to become an entrepreneur. Then you get pushed into this mindset of like, dude, you got to learn to delegate. Like if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to get rid of your labor. You got to give everything to someone else. First thing people do is they go and hire a VA, right? Philippines, $3 an hour, $5 an hour. I don't know what it costs these days, but you go and you hire a VA, and then you try to do this, what everyone's telling you to do. You got to delegate, because if you cannot delegate, it will always just be you as a freelancer, right? So I think you get into this mindset, and then you really quickly, and maybe now there's like a combination. So now people think they need to delegate, and then they think, well, I'm not really the expert at this, so why don't I, just hire somebody? And maybe it's a combination between being a little bit lazy and not wanting to like do the actual work. Like maybe it's easier to hire a social media manager to post on social media for me than it is for me to actually do it myself. Maybe it's easier for me to hire a salesperson who is really good at selling than it is for me to just practice my sales skills and do it myself. So, and then they go into this thing where they think they can hire a closer or a salesperson while they've never really closed for their offer and like closed at 30% themselves. And I think that is the biggest mistake. You'll probably agree with me, is when people go and they hire a closer and they cannot close on their own offer to be the example. And the reason why this is so backwards is because that's when everything falls apart. You will never find employees at that stage of your business, at least. That comes later. That's like when we're talking about like multiple 7 figures, 8 figures. That's when you hire people that are better than you to do a specific function of your business. But at the beginning of entrepreneurship, anywhere from 10K to 100K a month, that's when you got to do the shit on your own and be the best, whatever it is. You got to understand your finances. You got to understand your tracking. You got to understand your ads. You got to understand your content. You got to understand your business, and then hand it off to people, not the ultimate experts, but like the middle people, right? You go hire a sales manager that is ambitious, because the best closers, they're not going to want to work for you at this stage. They want to work for people that are way more established, right? You're never going to get them. And if you do get them, you were lied to. He closed you or she, right? They're, the best closers are not going to come work for your 30, 40K a month offer that you're not even closing yourself, right? Yep. They go to people that are making 2, 3, 4, 500K a month at least, have an established closer business owner that knows and can close at 30, 40%. Then these are the people that they go to. So I don't know, long story short, you got to do the shit on your own. You got to go through painful. You don't need to become the ultimate expert, but you got to understand it so well that you can sell for your offer, you can market for your offer, and then you can bring on people. And I think this is where we maybe go into the second conversation, right? Do you even need so many people? Or can you just, live on a very good, profitable business making 100K a month without 10 people, right? Maybe just you and an assistant.
Yeah.
What do you think?
100% can. I think so. I think the rhetoric pushed in the marketplace is that you have to build this team in order to delegate the sales, because you can't sell anything over a certain price, anything over about $1,000. If you're really good at a webinar, you can probably sell something for $1,000 off the back of that webinar. So you're selling one to many. You don't need a sales team to do that. Anything over that, you need a sales team. You and I both know that that is not true. We know lots and lots of people selling $16,000, $18,000, $20,000 packages in the DMs with a doc.
Yep.
So I think, and the difference is direct response marketing that is designed to get a lead, right? You can get a lead. You're going to need a salesperson because that lead is just not anywhere near warmed up enough. So you're going to need a conversation versus marketing that is specifically designed to do the selling. And then once you've got, so I think if you don't want to take sales calls and you don't want to build a big sales team, then you're going to have to double down on your marketing. And your marketing is going to have to do all of the hard work that a sales team would normally do, so that when you do email your list and, we're taking on 7 new people this month or whatever it says, people are ready to buy, Or you can work hard on just producing leads that you need to wrangle over the finishing line with some kind of, ninja dojo sales tactic, which is why probably most entrepreneurs don't like sales calls. They're like, oh man, this is a drag. Well, dude, if you feel like that and you don't want to build a big team, I had this conversation with somebody at the start of the month doing 300K a month, barely scraping 12% margin. And I said, would you rather have a 300K a month business and a 12% margin with all the stress of the team? Or would you rather have a 100K a month business, no stress, and a 90% margin? The guy was like, no brainer. And his words to me were, I didn't start my business because I wanted to be a CEO. I started my coaching business because I wanted time, money, and location freedom.
Yeah.
So I think if you want that and you don't want to build a big team, then you're going to need to double down on the marketing. The marketing is going to have to do that heavy lifting for you. Now, if you do want to be a CEO, if you do want to grow a behemoth $1 million, $2 million a month business, all the rest of it, big team, moving, shaking, smaller profit margins, but you really get a kick out of that stuff, that's cool, dude. Then just run your direct response super hard, pile as many leads as you can through a VSL, and hopefully you have a team that can sell. But to come all the way back to your point, this is why it's so important for the entrepreneur to understand how to do it. Because you have to understand, somebody can be good at sales doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be good at selling your offer. So you have to know all of the nuances of your ICP, all of the nuances of the types of objections you're likely to get and why and how to handle them. You're going to need to know that in order to train a team properly to be able to handle it the way you need it handled in order to get people over the line. But I mean, for me, the attraction is far more just get really good at the marketing piece and sell via doc. No sales calls, which means you don't need to give away 10% to a sales team. You don't need to give away a further 5% to a setting team plus a base. So goodness knows how much that is. Plus, with the cost of advertising going through the roof, everybody making Zucks super rich, but there's also a more, like there's just 1,000 topics, right? A more efficient way to run ads, a better way to nurture leads than a traditional funnel. Because I'm like becoming the anti-funnel guy. Do you know what I mean? Which is all right. It's like, I'll stand on that hill. I'll plant my flag on it.
So why do you recommend, like every guru out there is teaching you to do complex funnels, right? I'm hearing more complex stuff day by day. It's like, do a challenge, do a, this, that webinar, hundreds of emails, complicated CRM. So why do you say burn the funnel or get rid of the funnel and do things differently? What's the benefit of that? And why do you do that?
I'll tell you why. We know because of Google's data, right? Google released their 7-11-4 rule. Okay, people need to consume 7 hours of content across 11 different touch points over 4 different platforms, whether that's, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, email, whatever it is. So we know that there's a lack of trust. And the one thing that a VSL is good at doing is it's good at piquing interest, but it's not necessarily very good at selling, right? And in order to be good at selling on a VSL, you've got to have some kind of Russell Brunson level skill set. Do you know what I mean? And there's just not many people in the world that have that kind of skill set. So the reason I say burn the funnel is because it is inefficient at nurturing your leads. Okay, we know because of, again, Google's data, 1% of the market is ready to buy right now. So every 100 leads you generate, one of them is ready to buy right now. 50% of them will never buy anything from you. This is not my opinion. This is based on hard data. 50% of them will just never buy anything. which leaves 49% of people which might buy tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. Now that's a lot of people, but a VSL, and then obviously they end up on your list, email list, is not good at nurturing that 49%. And there is a much more efficient way of nurturing those people so that when they are ready to buy, when they've consumed enough of the content, when they've gone, all right, I think Jeff and Sebastian are the guys to help me, they're ready. Now your content has done all of that heavy lifting, and you can release an email, say, hey, I'm taking on 5 more clients this month, or whatever that looks like, and they just come through. You literally have the link in the doc, and they sign up, right? And so I just think for most people that's infinitely more efficient. It's definitely easier on tech. It's definitely less expensive to run. It 100% doesn't cost you as much in ads. It's a nicer kind of sell because most people don't like quote unquote selling. And the reason I think that they've developed this dislike for selling is because they're so used to running cold leads through a VSL and then having to fight tooth and nail on the end of the call because the heavy lifting hasn't been done by marketing. Yeah. So that's my kind of hot take on why I say burn the funnel. And there's going to be people listen to this, all 2 of them, who are running a funnel, generating loads of leads, got a big team, making $1 million a month, and that's fine. But if you're newer, maybe you're doing 5, 10, 15K a month, and you think, right, now's the time I need to start building a funnel, I would say run for the hills, because there is an infinitely more enjoyable, more profitable way to grow and scale your business than trying to employ this funnel that drags in a ton of cold leads, and then you do need to build a big team because they just won't buy.
I'd love to talk more about that. I think it's been in quite a few conversations lately. How do you level up your business, right? How do you get to the next step? Let's say you're at 10K a month, 30K a month, you want to scale to 50, you want to scale to 100. What do you do, right? And then so there's hundreds of possibilities what you can do, right? You can, I don't know, go look and copy some of your competitors, or just random people out there that are doing something similar. You could go, I don't know, produce a bunch of content around what you do. Might hit, might not. You could hire someone to help you. You could buy some kind of coaching program, mastermind program, somebody telling you this funnel is it, some kind of software. You could go to YouTube, watch YouTube videos all day. And I think the difficult part about that is the complexity and the amount of information that is out there, especially like just take one of them, right? In a series, I'm breaking down everything Hormozi just says in his 100 million money models and his books and the playbooks that he gave along with his recent offer. And there's such a behemoth of information in there for so many different demographics. And he says so, right? Transparently, he says, this is we've dealt with businesses from this revenue all the way to there, across every industry, right? But it's difficult for you to know what actually applies to you. And many times it's not having these complex funnels or 100 upsell, downsells, or all these things that you may need, but sometimes it's what do you don't need, right? What are the only things that you need to do that is because what you're trying to, let's say you're at 30K and you want to go to 300K, right? You want to build 7 figures and then you want to multiple 7 figures. Now, going from 30K to 300K is not one step. It's actually like 5 steps, right? And the one step that we're talking about is actually going from 30K to 50, 60, 70, 80K, something like that, right? Going to 7 figures. That's number 1 step. And that step is completely different from going from 80K to 200K, right? So what do you need to do, or more importantly, what do you not need to do in this one step that will help you go from 30 to 80K versus doing everything else? And I think that is the hardest part of 2025. All of this information, all of these YouTube videos, all of the things that you could do that are keeping us from actually getting it done and actually going there. And I feel this across all of our clients and everywhere. That is like, what should I not do, or what should I actually focus on?
If you're at 30K a month, you've got a model that works, right? And I think entrepreneurs and coaches have a natural shiny object syndrome. Like me included, I'm terrible. I'm terrible. I've learned to turn that off somewhat now, but I used to be really bad for it. And so they think, well, I must need a bunch of new stuff in order to go from 30K a month to 80K a month. And in reality, you just need to increase the volume of what's already working. Increase lead flow. If you've got a good sales process, then just funnel more leads into that sales process and see if the margins and the metrics stay the same if you double your lead flow, right? Because if you do, and it works, you go from 30K to 60K in 30 days just by doubling the lead flow. So in a lot of cases, it's literally that simple. But I think the trap people fall into is they think, well, it must be, no, that, caveat to that, there's probably going to be complexity attached to that, because as you bring in more people in the front end, obviously that's going to put pressure on fulfillment and delivery. So, you're potentially going to have a bench of people ready to step in to cope with the influx of new clients, right? So you need to think ahead a little bit. But essentially, it is as simple as if you are doing regular 30K months, you have a mechanism that works. You just need to increase what is already working rather than layering on more things. You just need to do the same thing more,
100%.
But people have a hard time with that.
Everyone does, including we always need to. 6 months ago, we let go most of our sales team, closers, setters, and just radically transformed the business, right? Focusing more on what we call the hybrid social funnel or content, right? Because you think of it this way, you got to have that anyway, right? If you're running a business, you will realize really quickly, I wish I had a whiteboard here. I think I would need to prepare that for next time, where we can draw this chart, right? Where you have this pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid you have the people that know who you are. They're problem aware, solution aware, they know you exist, and they're like, okay, I've just got to pull the trigger, right? These people, really easy to run a direct offer ad or to go in front of them and convince them to, or not, you don't even need to convince them because they know. As soon as you expand your business, you start to scale. You run out of these 3% or 1% of people real quick, right? Because there's only so many of them. That means you need to start marketing to people within the other segments of this pyramid. And these are people that maybe they're problem aware, but not solution aware, right? Or the second segment of the pyramid are people that they're solution aware, but they don't know you exist, right? So they think, I could use a coach to help me, or I could use like a coach to help me scale my coaching business, but I don't know who to go with. Do I go with somebody like Russell Brunson or Alex Hormozy, or do I pick someone that's maybe not so well known, but will, dedicate 100% of their energy to me because they have less clients, more hands-on, what do I pick, right? So that's one bucket below, right? They need to know you exist. And then if you go even broader and you try to reach more people, you go into people that are just maybe problem aware, right? They're like, yeah, I would like to make more money, but I have no clue how, right? What do I even do? I don't even know that there are programs, people, masterminds, and coaches out there that can actually give me what I'm looking for. And then even broader, you have people that they're not even there yet. You need to even help them onto the thought of, dude, you could be doing way better. They don't even know that's really possible yet. So if you want to go and market to all of these people, you need to create a shit ton of content in that sense, right? So you need to, whatever it may be, if it's ads, if it's organic content, you need to do a lot of educating who you are, how you do it, what the benefits are, right? To reach more of your TAM, more of your target audience. And by doing so, it's naturally, right, as you grow, that you want to get more of these people into your ecosystem of knowing that you exist and the solutions that you have for them, so that you can ultimately sell to them. And you will only succeed by doing that is if you can educate them enough that they fully understand that, this is rightfully a great solution for them and that you're the right partner to take them there. Mm-hmm. And this is only done by content. And so independently how you can run as many people as you want through a short form funnel, then your salesperson will have to basically educate them on that entire pyramid of things within 45 minutes. And You can probably guess how that will turn out.
Ugly. It's going to be a bloodbath.
I got to think about it.
Let me speak to my wife.
Yeah.
I've only just seen you in an ad. I'm not about to give you any money. I don't know. You could be anybody. You know, this is what comes up when those short form funnels are deployed. They like, it has a vanity metric attached to it, right? Because you deploy the short form funnel and all of a sudden, boom, you've got leads in your calendar and coming through on your email, and you're like, amazing, I've got leads. And to an extent, that's true. You know, like if you generate 100 leads, chances of you selling 1 or 2 people, you know, it's pretty good.
Of course.
But don't think you're going to generate 100 leads and the show up rate is going to be any good. Probably going to be 30% if you're lucky. So 100 leads turns into, you know, maybe 20 book calls. And then if your show up rate is absolutely horrific, you've maybe got, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 people that show up, and then it's an absolute battle with every single person to try to convince them that they should spend money with you. And I just think there is a more efficient, nicer way for you and the audience, better, more comfortable way of growing a business, which is obviously what we major in, which is that hybrid social funnel.
Yeah. So let's talk about, like, you know, everybody knows that running paid ads is the ultimate thing you need to scale any business, right?
Yep.
Customer acquisition costs are up. I don't know, I need to check the exact data, but over 1,800% since 2019. This is like less than 6-7 years ago. How do coaches survive without going broke on ads in 2025?
So Sabri Subi at a recent conference said the best strategy at the moment is to produce organic content, which is where a lot of people get stuck. They're like, oh, now I've got to be a slave to the content machine. No, you don't. You just need the right way to produce the right content. And there's 3 layers of content, right? There's content designed to get eyeballs and followers. There's content that's designed to turn followers into fans. And then there's content designed to turn fans into clients. And you just need to have a strategy to understand how to put all of those together, which we need to talk about on another podcast, because we've solved that problem for ourselves, right? Because that was our challenge and we've solved that problem. So now we're able to solve that for our clients. But there is just a more efficient way to run ads. And we don't advocate running ads into a traditional funnel whatsoever. We advocate building an audience, and from that audience, finding who your fans are, and then allowing your fans to self-filter into clients using those 3 strategic content buckets, you know, followers, fans, and sales content. And then what Sabri Subi said is what you can do is, once you've analyzed your best performing organic content, utilize ads to amplify that content. So you're almost using Facebook's, Instagram's, TikTok's algorithm to understand what your audience resonates with. And then once you understand that, you can take that piece of content and just put some ad spend behind it to get more eyeballs, to get more followers. And so we kind of advocate for that. What it does is it dramatically drives down ad spend. It dramatically drives down the cost of acquiring leads and followers and fans. And it enables you to test without spending any money. I know the company I previously used to work for spent $60,000 before they got a VSL to convert. Right now, they were able to do that because they've got deep pockets and they've been in business a long time and all the rest of it. But your average coach doing 5, 10, 15K a month doesn't have a spare 60 grand to test a VSL. Well, what if you could just run $10 a day? Could you do that? Could you do $10 a day? Many people don't know this, by the way. Yeah, this is
that
it.
You got to spend so much money to get a VSL to work.
You've got to spend so much money to get a VSL to work, because you're going to have to tweet. I have never ever seen anybody launch a VSL and it work first time. And the problem is each time it doesn't work, you have got to put a significant amount of ad spend behind it in order to get enough data to understand, okay, is it the ad that's not performing? Is it the CTA that didn't perform? Is it the landing page that didn't perform? Is it the VSL that didn't perform? Is it the type form on the back of the VSL that put them off? Like, what is it? So then you've got to make an adjustment, spend another 10K. Didn't work. Make an adjustment, spend another 10K. And so I just think a lot of people don't realize this about VSL, specifically newer coaches and consultants. They think, oh yeah, I'll get some expert help. I'll launch a VSL, boom, and I'll be at $1 million a month in no time. That is not the reality. And like I said, even the company that I worked for previously, very experienced, amazing at direct response marketing, amazing at funnels. Took them 60 grand to get that funnel to convert.
That's not all. I mean, what we're talking here about is ad spend. And just recently, bringing up Alex Hormozi again as an example, I think he was talking about how he spent over 4 million in ads or something now leading up to the book launch. It's like, do you guys even fathom how many creatives that dude did for this 4 million that he spent.
Hundreds.
He did over 500 creatives, right? Think about just like, what is, do the math, right? And you can, maybe you're charging 50 an hour. I hope you're not charging an hour, but let's say, you value your time at $100 an hour or 200, right? Alex values his time at what, 20,000 an hour, something like that. Now take all the hours that he put into filming that content, the team of 5 people running around him with cameras, all the green men jumping up and down in his video and everything, all the production, all the post-production. That's more like 40 million versus 4, right? Maybe it was 20, whatever, I don't know. Maybe Alex is obviously not charging $20,000 for his time leading up to that. But if you do the actual math, right, and you put this all together, it's not that cheap anymore. It's not just ad spend that we're talking about. It's also about, you think you can go to Fiverr and go edit a VSL. It's like, no, you might need to re-edit. You might need to retake it. You might need to do it 10 times until it actually works. So it's just an easier way to do the content anyway, see what works, amplify that content, get people into your system versus betting everything on one piece of content you nervously need to go create and do so that it could work. And worse, I know some people, clients also came to me sometimes using a spokesperson. And don't get me wrong, it looks absolutely stunning. That's the whole problem. It's like too stunning. It's like, bro, this is not going to work in 2025. This looks too AI.
Right.
It's
like, looks too good. People want something more real.
No. Yes.
Yeah. I think next podcast, we're going to have to talk to people about, because I do think it's a problem. Once people go, okay, all right, let's say I'm bought in on a hybrid social funnel, right? Okay, I get it. Launch organic content, amplify good content, put some paid ad spend behind it. I get it, right? I understand that. But then the problem that a lot of people run into is, I don't know what to post. And I've been guilty of this, 100% guilty of this, until, the problem was solved, right? You produced, I can't take credit for it. You're the brains behind that particular piece of content. But you produced something that enables us to not even have to think about what we're filming or shooting or posting. And this content will produce the content for you, and it won't be shitty, and it will absolutely analyze that content from things that have already proven to convert. So that when you produce that content, it's got a very high chance of not just virality, because as we know, you can build a 7-figure business with a very, very small audience. But I do think we need to talk to people more about that, because I think that solves a massive problem for a lot of creators, coaches, consultants. They go, okay, I'm bought in, I need to produce the organic content. I don't know what the hell to talk about. I could talk about 100 subjects, and I sit in front of a blank Google Doc, and this was me, this was my experience. I'm sat here in front of a blank Google Doc, and I can't think about what the fuck I'm supposed to say, right? So I definitely think we need to talk more about how to solve that problem on our next pod, mate, because I think that would help a lot of people out.
100%. Let's make next session about content and talk all about how you can create content, what types of content you need to create, so that even with, let's say, even with 50 views or 50 followers, right, you can start getting actual interested clients into your DMs that then convert into your high ticket offer.